1. Intro. What if the very thing you call thinking carefully is actually the reason you feel trapped inside your own mind? Many people believe overthinking is a sign of intelligence, that if you analyze every possibility, you'll eventually make the perfect decision. But ancient Stoic philosophy suggests something different. Sometimes the mind doesn't think more because it's wise. It thinks more because it's afraid. Afraid of choosing wrong. Afraid of losing control. Afraid of stepping into uncertainty. And the longer the mind searches for perfect clarity, the further action moves away. So the real question isn't, how do I think more? The real question is, why does my mind refuse to stop? If you enjoy exploring ideas like this about Stoic wisdom and the modern mind, subscribe to Legacy of Thinkers and join a community learning how ancient philosophy still guides modern life. Now let's explore what the Stoics understood about overthinking centuries ago. 2. Modern struggle. Daniel looks calm from the outside. He answers emails on time, shows up to meetings prepared, and says the kind of things people expect from someone who has his life together. If you saw him at work, you might even call him disciplined, reliable, thoughtful, the kind of man who doesn't rush into bad decisions. But what no one sees is how loud his mind becomes the moment he is alone. A simple text can follow him for an hour. A conversation from this morning can replay all night. A decision that should take 10 minutes somehow expands into 3 days of mental debate. He tells himself he is being careful. He says he's thinking it through. He believes that if he can just examine every possible outcome, he can avoid regret before it happens. So, he keeps going. He replays what he said. He rewrites what he should have said. He imagines how someone may have interpreted his tone, his pause, his silence, his face. He runs tomorrow's problems before tomorrow arrives. He tries to control future pain with present thought. And for a while, this feels intelligent. It feels responsible to think ahead. It feels mature to prepare for consequences. It feels safer to delay action until the picture is completely clear. But Daniel's life is slowly being shaped by hesitation, not wisdom. He leaves messages unsent because the timing never feels perfect. He delays decisions because there might still be one detail he hasn't considered. He turns down chances that matter to him not because he doesn't care, but because caring too much has made him afraid of choosing wrong. The exhausting part is that overthinking rarely looks dramatic from the outside. It looks like caution. It sounds like maturity. It even disguises itself as self-awareness. But inside, it is a cycle of tension. His body is in the present, but his mind is always somewhere else. 3 steps ahead, 5 mistakes deep, rehearsing outcomes that haven't happened. Even rest becomes work. Even silence becomes noise. Even peace feels suspicious. Because part of him believes that if he relaxes too much, life will catch him unprepared. So, he keeps scanning, keeps analyzing, keeps waiting for certainty. And certainty never comes. That is the modern struggle for so many people now. Not laziness, not lack of ambition, not lack of intelligence, but a mind trained to believe that endless thought is protection. Yet the more Daniel thinks, the less free he feels. Because overthinking does not only steal time, it steals presence, it steals trust. It steals the quiet inner strength needed to move before everything feels guaranteed. And the cruel irony is this: the mind that wants safety often becomes the very thing that keeps him from living. 3. Stoic insight. This is where Stoic thought becomes unexpectedly sharp, because the Stoics would likely ask a question that most modern minds avoid. What if overthinking is not a sign of depth, but a refusal to accept the limits of control? At first, that idea can feel uncomfortable. We prefer to believe that our endless thinking is proof that we care, proof that we are responsible, proof that we are trying to get life right. But Stoic philosophy points to something more humbling. The mind often keeps spinning not because reality is unclear, but because reality refuses to obey us. That is what makes uncertainty so difficult. We do not merely want to prepare for life. We want guarantees from it. We want to know that if we say the right thing, the relationship will work. If we make the smart move, the future will reward us. If we think hard enough, we will somehow remove the possibility of pain. But the Stoic view cuts through that illusion. Life does not offer that kind of contract. It never has. You can act with wisdom and still be misunderstood. You can love sincerely and still be left. You can prepare carefully and still watch events unfold in ways you never wanted. The Stoics recognized this not to make people passive, but to make them stronger. They understood that much of human suffering begins when the mind demands certainty from a world that has never promised it. And that is where overthinking quietly reveals itself. It is often the mind's attempt to negotiate with uncertainty, to bargain with the future, to outthink pain before pain arrives. But no amount of mental rehearsal can turn life into something risk-free. In fact, the more the mind tries to force certainty, the more fragile it becomes. Because now peace depends on conditions that may never come. The Stoic response is not, stop caring. It is not, stop thinking. It is not, ignore consequences. It is something more disciplined than that. See clearly what belongs to you and what does not. Your judgment belongs to you. Your effort belongs to you. Your character belongs to you. But the final outcome does not. That distinction changes everything. Because when the mind finally accepts that its job is not to control reality, but to meet reality well, a different kind of strength begins to appear. Not the strength of prediction, not the strength of perfect planning, but the strength of inner steadiness. And that may be the deeper Stoic insight. Fear grows when the mind tries to possess the future. Peace begins when it learns to face the present without demanding guarantees. 4. Stoic framework. If Stoic thinkers were observing Daniel's struggle, they would likely offer a very practical framework, one that has survived for centuries because of its simplicity. It begins with a quiet but powerful distinction. Some things in life are within your influence. Many things are not. This may sound obvious at first, yet the human mind constantly blurs this line. When we overthink, we often try to mentally solve problems that belong to the second category, the part of life that refuses to be controlled. Think about the things Daniel worries about. How others interpret his words. Whether a relationship will last. How future opportunities might unfold. Whether his choices will guarantee success. All of these matter deeply to him, but none of them are fully his to command. And this is where the Stoic framework becomes clarifying. Instead of asking, how do I make the future behave the way I want? The Stoic approach quietly shifts the question. What part of this moment actually belongs to me? Perhaps it is the honesty of the message he sends. Perhaps it is the effort he brings to a difficult conversation. Perhaps it is the courage to take a step forward, even without certainty. Those things are real choices. They exist in the present, and unlike outcomes, they are completely within reach. But overthinking tries to drag the mind into a different arena, the arena of guarantees. It tries to simulate every scenario until the future feels safe enough to enter. The Stoic framework gently refuses this game. Not because the future doesn't matter, but because trying to control it is like trying to control the weather. You can prepare for it, you can respond to it, but you cannot command it. When Daniel begins to see this difference, something subtle begins to shift inside him. The question is no longer, "What if this goes wrong?" The question becomes, "What is the right action available to me right now?" And that change does something powerful. It pulls the mind out of endless speculation and brings it back to the present moment where life is actually happening. From that place, decisions become simpler, not always easier, but clearer. You act with care, you act with integrity, and you allow the results to unfold as they will. This does not remove uncertainty from life, but it removes the exhausting belief that your mind must solve the entire future before you are allowed to move. 5. Stoic practice. Understanding an idea is one thing, living it is something else entirely. Stoic philosophy was never meant to stay in books or quiet reflection. It was meant to be practiced in the middle of ordinary life, during the exact moments when the mind begins to spiral. For Daniel, the practice begins with something surprisingly simple, noticing the moment when thinking turns into looping. At first, it feels subtle. The same question returns again and again. The mind promises that one more analysis will bring clarity. But instead of clarity, what appears is tension, an invisible pressure that keeps pulling attention away from the present. The Stoic approach suggests a small pause at that exact moment, not to force the mind to stop thinking, but to ask a different kind of question. Is this something I can act on right now? If the answer is yes, then the path becomes clear. Write the message, start the task, speak the honest words that need to be said. Action, even small action, interrupts the endless loop of speculation. But if the answer is no, the practice becomes something else. Release. Not careless avoidance, not pretending the issue doesn't matter, but a deliberate choice to place that concern back into the category of things that will unfold in their own time. At first, this can feel uncomfortable. The mind has been trained to believe that constant thinking equals responsibility. Letting go can feel like losing control. Yet over time, something interesting happens. The mind slowly learns that not every uncertainty needs to be solved immediately. Some things become clearer only after movement. Some answers appear only after we step forward without perfect certainty. This is why Stoic practice focuses less on controlling thought and more on directing attention. Return to what you can do now. Return to the effort available in this moment. Return to the character you want to bring to the next action. When Daniel begins practicing this shift, his life does not suddenly become predictable, but it does become lighter, because the mind is no longer carrying the impossible burden of solving the entire future before the present can begin. 6. Reflection. In the end, overthinking is rarely just about thought. It is often about fear wearing the clothes of intelligence. It is the mind trying to protect itself from uncertainty, from regret, from pain that has not even arrived. But the more tightly we grip the future, the less fully we live the present. The Stoic path offers something quieter but stronger. Not perfect control, not guaranteed outcomes. Just the discipline to meet life as it is and to act well within the part that truly belongs to us. Maybe peace does not come when the mind finally predicts everything. Maybe peace begins when the mind no longer believes it has to. That is where freedom returns. That is where courage becomes possible. And that is where a calmer life begins. If this reflection resonated with you, continue the practice tomorrow. Leave a comment with the one thought you need to release today. And subscribe to Legacy of Thinkers for more reflections on Stoic wisdom, inner clarity, and a steadier way to live.